Good evening from Vietnam. Good morning to you, John. Thanks a lot for spending your morning joining our show, knowing that you just recover and not really fully recover from COVID-19. So thanks a lot for making the effort to join and share your insights with our audience on a very important topic, aging and wisdom. Okay.
It is my honor. It's my absolute honor to be here with you.
And it is a great honor for our audience to have you to do a little introduction about who you are, the works you are doing in our culture. Would you please do that?
Short introduction, and this will speak a little bit to wisdom. After failing out of university on the first try, I graduated number 4 in the United States on my second try. I became a CEO of an international company when I was 26. I have since gone on to become an author, speaker, executive coach, trainer to companies worldwide, from startups to the Fortune 5. I've worked for Apple and Microsoft and Amazon, all the way down to people that are just starting their companies. So that's a very quick overview of my career.
So if we want to go a little deeper into introduction, what else would you like to introduce about yourself for our audience?
I think a couple things, probably a few things that stick out would be, and you can see behind me, I've been reading 100 to 120 business books a year. Wow. Since 1989. So I'm up to about 3,000 business books I've read, many of them multiple times. And that does not include, excuse me, blogs, articles, everything else. So I'm probably one of the most well-read people, I hate to say this, in the world, on business, leadership, topics like that.
So,
and that would be, and I just try to have fun. There we go. I love my career and I love what I do, and I've turned 60 this year. So I hope to continue to do what I do for another 20 years, 25 years, as long as I'm healthy, because I absolutely enjoy and love the opportunity I have to help other people and to help businesses.
And we want you to be healthy, to be continued for this the works you are doing for at least 25, 30 years more. Okay, John? Please do that for us. Right into what you're saying, the wisdom right there. You love reading and then have fun of doing that also, right? And this conversation today we're having is about a topic that it just came up in my journey lately, and I say, okay, I want to come up with the 50 people that I really admire. I want to hear their story, their insight, their thought about this topic. And definitely John Spence has to be in on that list. And thanks a lot for accepting. So the first question is, John, so when you received my invitation for this one, what was your first thinking about this?
My very first thinking is, well, when I turned 59, I came up with a saying for myself. I now realize I know very little about almost nothing and almost nothing about everything else. That at this stage of my life, even after all those experiences and all the books and all the articles and all the people I've met, I realize that I still have barely scratched the surface of knowledge that leads to wisdom. The other thing that was very interesting to me is I just read an article in Harvard that talked about the difference between knowledge work and wisdom work. And what they talked about is knowledge work is for people usually early in their career when they're young, and especially the folks that are coming into the workforce today are magnificent at gathering knowledge, gathering data, gathering information. But you need someone like me who's had 30 or 40 years doing it to show them how to take that knowledge and turn it into results. And that's the wisdom. And I really like the idea of pairing, kind of like we're doing now, with someone who's early in their journey, who's learning and growing and studying, with someone who's been doing it decades and understands that. Look, I'll give you a quick example. I just did a strategy for one of my major global clients, and I used ChatGPT to do a large part of it. And the information that ChatGPT gave me was spectacular, except for one thing. If you didn't have 3 decades of doing the work, it was just a list of information. To me, it was a great list of information I could use as wisdom work. Someone knowledge would have just had the list with no idea how to implement it. So when you asked me to talk about wisdom, I thought this is a really unique topic right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. So thanks for sharing that, because a lot of people thinking they're having the data at hand, which means that they have everything. It used to be that say data is everything, right? But now make out of that data is really everything, right? So not just the data, it's just a raw number, raw data itself doesn't mean anything at all until we make something out of it. That's where wisdom comes from. So I want to start with the basic, John. So in your word, in your definition, what is wisdom to you?
Oh, wow, what a great question. We sort of touched on it. Wisdom is, and I never believed in intuition when I was younger. When I was a young CEO, you almost said it perfectly. I thought I relied on data. I have the knowledge, I have the information, I have the spreadsheet. That's where I get my answer. What I realize now is that intuition is a part of wisdom. And intuition comes from your ability to find patterns. So to me, wisdom is someone who's seen things over and over and over again and begins to understand the pattern of how things work. If you look at the best of people in the world, and this would speak to wisdom a little bit, typically they focus on four things to become in the top 1% in the world. The first one is passion, which just stands to reason you're not going to become world class if you're not doing something you love. While we're having this discussion, the Olympics just finished. Those folks, you don't get a gold medal in a sport you don't enjoy.
Yep.
First P is passion. The next one is patience. Patience, which is what leads to wisdom. And Malcolm Gladwell said that it's 10 years or 10,000 hours. Let's use the Olympians as an example. They have some of them started studying when they were 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they're 20 years old, 25 years old now. And think about this, like in the swimming, they jump in the pool and swim for 25 seconds, 40 seconds. They spend years to spend less than a minute competing, which leads to the third P, which is practice. Deliberate, and it's a special kind of practice called deliberate practice, which means you have a coach or a mentor or a colleague, but someone pushing you, someone with wisdom helping you to become better constantly, which is where you begin to learn the wisdom from them, which leads to the fourth and final P, which is what I just spoke to, is pattern recognition. And for me, wisdom is someone who's seen things happen multiple times to the point where they see the pattern and understand it and understand what's going to happen next and what will happen next and what will happen next. That was a long description, but no one has ever asked me that question before, so I had to kind of think it through as I was answering it.
Beautiful. The answer is so beautiful. So which leads me to the next question is about the people with wisdom. All right. There's so many people speaking sound like wisdom person, looking really like a wise person, a person with wisdom, but indeed they're not. And it's really confusing for us in this world with so many noises out there. So how can we distinguish this is the wise person for us to listen, to follow, to apply their insights and stuff, and this is the type of people that we need to disconnect with and stay away from, so it's gonna help us to be cleaner in our life, more clarity, I think.
Again, excellent question. To me, the difference is there's a lot. We've got a theme we're coming up with for this discussion. There's a lot of people that have knowledge. They've read books by wise people. They have listened to speeches by wise people, and they can repeat that information. The key is a wise person actually lived it. They've been there. They've done that. Whereas someone over here who seems wise is just repeating the ideas of wise people. I mean, a lot of what I learned by reading right now, never in the history of humankind has more information been available for free. I've got books all around me from incredibly wise people who are the best in the world at what they do. But if I haven't lived those things, then it's just information. So I always look for someone, I look at their background. If they're going to teach me how to do strategy, have they done it? Have they done it for dozens of companies? And if they spent 20 years doing it, do they truly understand that topic at a deep level? Or are they just teaching a framework that they learned someplace else from somebody else and taking someone else's wisdom and trying to sort of pretend it's their own? Did that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense to me. So how can I live it?
Say again?
How can I have a life lived with wisdom?
To me, you can't have wisdom across multiple areas. Might be able to be wise in one or two areas. So to me, if I was going to pursue it, I would figure out an area that was important to me where I wanted to be a teacher. And I felt that the wisdom would allow me in that area to be a better person and to live the life that I wanted to and to help other people. And then I would pursue as much knowledge and add it with as much experience as possible. Someone asked me the other day, what was one of the most important things you learned early in your career that helped make you successful? And I said, saying yes. Yes, I'll try that. My boss would say, I need someone to go to Costa Rica to negotiate this deal. Who wants to go? I'm like, I'll go. I don't know anything about that, but I'll go. And I just said, I'll go. So to me, it's picking something you want to be good at, an area you want to be wise, and then saying yes, trying things, doing new things, pursuing it, and realizing you can't be wise you can't be wise in 20 things. Yeah. Maybe one or two.
John, you tap into one thing that I really, really want to explore, and is you live with that principle of saying yes. I also the person living the principle of saying yes more than, instead of saying no. And over the past 4 or 5 years, we got tremendous companies, tremendous people talking about, say no and stuff like that. So what's your point about, keep you to saying yes instead of saying no?
So wonderful way to parse that out. Saying yes to the right things. It's creating boundaries. So I'll give you a clear example. Maybe this is a little wisdom, and it's wisdom I learned from Walt Disney of Disney World, which is when values are clear, decisions are easy. I know what is important to say yes to because I understand what I'm trying to learn, where I'm trying to become wise. I think one of the most important things you can do is also learn what to say no to. What won't help you, what doesn't match your values, what isn't in the area that you want to learn. It's fun to go out and try something new, for sure, but you don't become among the best in the world or really good or really wise at something if you don't spend a lot of time on it. So you do have to have the discipline to say no to things that are outside of that path. So when I was taking things, I would look at opportunities that would take me in the direction I wanted to go. Because I had a clear vision of the life I wanted to live and still do, and I understood my values deeply, when an opportunity came up, I would say to myself, and I still do, will this take me in the direction of the life I want to live and the vision I want to achieve? And does this align with my core values, which are honesty, health, love, laughter, learning, contribution? Every decision I make in my life is focused around those core values and moving in the direction of the vision I have for my life. Anything that falls outside of that, no, not doing it.
Got it. That's wisdom right there. Jonah, you need to teach us, okay? Because for thousands of years, the one thing is very commonly you hear from culture to culture, from religious to religion, is that the hardest thing to know is know ourselves, right? Know what we know who we are, the values that we want to, and you figured it out very early in your life. Who you are and the values you want to pursue in your life. So it's easier for you to say, okay, decision is easy. If you know the value is clear. For earlier you mentioned about Disney things, right? So how did you figure out the values that John Spence will, embody in this life?
This is a very poignant thing. It has some meaning today, specifically this day. Two things. I, not often, but from time to time, I teach a class on personal development, on self-leadership. And again, I've taught it from high schools to Apple. And I teach the same things. I don't change the content at all because it's fundamental things to living a meaningful, happy, and joyful life. And one of the things I ask people to do is write their personal core values. What do they believe in? I teach a class, when I teach this to senior executives, I just taught this to the top 60 people of one of the largest banks in the world. And I asked every time I teach it, I ask the same question. How many of you currently have a written list of your personal core values that you use to live your life by on a daily basis and to make all the major decisions in your life against? And if I ask a room of, let's say, 100 people, how many people do you think have a written list of their values out of 100?
Less 20%? Less.
2 people.
Oh.
1 person, 2 people.
Wow.
So 1%.
Wow.
1%. And this is something I've seen for 30 years of teaching this. And I've taught that class to more than 250,000 people around the world. Roughly 1% or 2%. And remember, these are people that are quote unquote successful. They're running multi-billion-dollar companies, yet they have no idea of what they truly value in their life. So this is a difference between wisdom and knowledge. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I had failed out of college, I realized that if I wanted my life to get better, I had to make it better, that no one else could do it for me. So I started studying success. I read all the books I could, everything. And some of the stuff that we're talking about, I learned back then. And one of them is, what are your core values? So I sat down and did a thing called the eulogy exercise.
Eulogy exercise.
And are you familiar with the idea of the word eulogy?
No.
Okay, eulogy in America is what people say at your funeral. When they stand up to speak about you. We were talking before we started recording about your grandma and the stuff that people said at her funeral. So the eulogy exercise is you sit down and you try to imagine yourself at your own funeral, years and years ahead. Remember, I'm, let's just say 20 years old. I'm trying to think, when I'm 80 or 90, what would my family say at my funeral? What would my friends say at my funeral? And then what would people from my community say at my funeral? And I sat down and really, really tried to think that as if I was there. I mean, if you take this seriously, you cry. It's emotionally gripping. And I thought about it, and it's the same one for everything, for everybody. They don't talk about your house or your car or your job. They talk about who you helped, how much you loved people, how much they loved you, what you did to support your community, what you did to support and help and love your family. So I looked at it then and said, all right, those are the things I need to spend my life focused on. I need to focus on being a person that's honest, telling the truth, being honesty, health, love, laughter, learning, contribution. Health was, I got real sick for a while, gained a lot of weight. I've lost quite a bit of weight. Health became honesty, health, love. I want to be a loving person that treats people with dignity and respect and genuine care and concern. Honesty, health, love, laughter. Want to have fun. Got to have a happy life. And then honesty, health, love, laughter, learning. I want to dedicate myself to constantly learning and growing and improving. And the last one is contribution, which is I want to take all those first things and give to other people, to help other people. So the way you do that is to sit down and think about, what are the things in my life that are absolutely the most important? You know, some people would have family or faith or, different things on their list. That's great. But it's the stuff that you say, this is what I have to live. This is who I have to be. And once you're clear about that, everything else falls into place. It's very simple. Even the most difficult decisions become very easy because you just look and say, if this is what I value, does this match what I value?
Wow. John, for some of us, thinking about what to do tomorrow is already challenging. What to do for the weekend already challenging. Already like consuming so much of brain's energy and brain cells already right there. And then you talk about eulogy exercise, talk about 60 years in advance, 50 years or like 80 years in advance. It's too hard for them to do. So how can they exercise that thinking a little here, a little there, so that they can start to get into that long-term vision for them to figure out that what core they need to do now?
Okay, so there's a couple of answers to this. There's a time management thing that's 4 quadrants. And Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about this. There's a quadrant of things that are unimportant and urgent. That's answering your text right now, or answering email, or checking Facebook, or talking on the phone because someone's calling you. It's right in your face. It's urgent. But it's not really very important. Ain't going to make your life any better. A lot of people spend a lot of their time on unimportant and urgent. Then there's let me see. Hang on a second. Urgent but unimportant. Unimportant, urgent, and unimportant. There's urgent and important. So that's stuff you need to do today. It's got to get done. It is important, and it's got to happen now. It's your job, it's your work, it's whatever. There's unimportant and unurgent, which is stuff you've got to say no to. Just get rid of it. Here's the one that's the toughest one, something that is important but not urgent. There's where the most important things in your life happen, by carving out time to do things like working on your core values, going to the gym, spending time thinking about the vision for your life, taking care of your health now. So, there's a big part of happiness and success comes from the idea of being able to delay gratification, to do something today that you won't see the results for years. So I think people that have wisdom understand that I don't get it today. I have to, if I want this 10 years from today, I have to make time for it now. And I did something that when I was very young that motivated me to do this. I sat down, and this is again after I just failed out of university and my life was going in a bad direction. I wanted to change it. I wrote myself 2 letters. On one letter, I wrote all of the great things that would happen in my life if I lived by my values and followed my vision. If I studied, I had a real clear vision of what I wanted my life to be like when I graduated from university. What awards did I want to win? What kind of a job did I want to have? And I constantly focused on that. And so I wrote myself a letter. If I do this, this is how great my life will be. It'll be awesome. Then I wrote myself another letter and I said, if you don't do this, what will your life look like? And that was ugly. And I would get up and read those every day. Every day I'd say, if I focus on my vision and my future and my life and my values, this is what my life will look like. If I don't, this is what my life will look like. And frankly, the letter of what my life would look like if I didn't do it was so painful. I looked at it and said, there's no way I want to live a life like that. I'm just not doing anything that would take me in that direction. Part of that was setting time aside to think, to take a walk, to journal, to write. I still have, I wrote up a vision of my life where I wanted it to be when I met my wife 24 years ago. We sat down together and wrote out what we wanted our life to look like. And except for health, that's at some level out of your control. Everything else is almost exactly what we wrote 24 years ago. And the reason is we've made decisions along the way that have allowed us to get there. Which also means it was very clear for us to say no to things that weren't going to create our dream life, our ideal life. Maybe that's wisdom, is the wisdom to understand that I have to do something today if I want to have something 10, 15, 20 years from today.
Beautiful. I want to bring you to the moment that you wrote the 2 letters to yourself. One is a to-do list if you want to have, this kind of life. And then if you're not doing this, you're going to have this kind of, life. And you see the beauty and the ugly. And then for you to really see by your eyes in order for you to easily to make a decision. That's wisdom right there at a very early age. That's very early age. So tell me, how did you come up with that idea, that wisdom at the age of 18, 19 like that to write those letters for yourself?
So I think the idea was, and I had a mentor years ago, and he would give me he was my mentor at my job, and he would give me a book, on a Monday and say I had to make a book report on Friday to him.
Mm.
Every Monday I got a book, every Friday I made a book report, and then he would say, what are the 3 things out of the book you're going to apply? And I would tell him, he would write that down and say, you'll now be held accountable. So I think the difference is a lot of people read self-help books, but not many people do the exercises. I was one of the rare people that when I saw an exercise like these 2 levers, I saw that in a book and said, do these. And I went, okay. So I blocked a half a day. I took a half a day, probably a Sunday, I don't remember. I remember the room I was in. I remember writing them. And I remember clearly they sat in a little desk next to my bed. And every day when I got up, I read them and put them back in there. But I think the difference is I had the knowledge. Maybe at that young age, I had enough wisdom to say, I have to actually do the exercise.
Mm.
But look, we're going all the way back to the beginning. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to do it.
Yeah.
I started back then saying, I'm going to go ahead and apply this and write it out and use it and invest the time. Has it worked out well? Yes, extremely well. Luckily, I did not live the paper. That wasn't the life I wanted to live.
John, I think the idea of executing the ideas, bring ideas and then take action on that is not new anymore. It's been here in the universe, under the sun for thousands of years already. But you look at the people around us, you look at the people who really embodied that idea, who live that with that principle, and not a lot. So what stopped them knowing the ideas when only valuable when you take action on that, but they didn't do it? What stopped them?
Well, 2 things. That's also the biggest problem in businesses worldwide.
Mm.
In all the companies I work with, communications is always a problem in every business. But the single biggest problem in companies around the world that keeps them from being successful is lack of disciplined execution. They have smart people. They've got a good plan. They've got quality products and services. They have the ability to be successful, but only about 5 to 10% of companies effectively execute their plan. I think if you looked at people, it's probably about the same number.
Mm.
That people have a dream of the life they want, and they have maybe not even a clear vision, but they want things to be better. The problem is they're not willing to do the work to get that done.
Mm.
There's a lot of these quotes. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. Taking and implementing stuff and being disciplined, and I'm going to use that word carefully, very disciplined to execute is critical. Now, here's the important part to that is if you're doing something, like most people think that discipline is harsh. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. If you're doing something you love and you enjoy, discipline is easy. I don't have to be disciplined to read at all. I love it. It's part of my job. I don't have to be disciplined to write down goals. I don't have to be disciplined. Stuff that many people would say, oh, that's hard. Well, if you love it, it's not hard. If you have to force yourself to do something, then it's probably not something that's important to you or that you're willing to invest time in. Does that sound about right?
Very, very right. Yes. Wow. Because that one, it brings me to the note that I wrote in here, the 4 P that you mentioned. The passion, the patient, the practice, and the recognition pattern, right? And the patient, I feel like the patient is really challenging for so many people because they can do it one day, they expect to see the result right away, or they can expect the result to be a week from today. But something like you mentioned earlier, you're not gonna see the result until a year or maybe even a decade. But you need to continually doing it. So along the way, a lot of people will drop the ball. A lot of people will drop their dream. A lot of people will drop what they think they know is right for them, the good for them. So what wisdom you can bring for us to believe in what we do and have the patience? Keep doing that.
Well, part of it is societal. When my parents, your grandparents grew up, they lived in a world where they understand you do today to get it for tomorrow. The famous Bible quote or something is, you reap what you sow, and if you don't sow it, you don't reap it. And you have to go by the season. They understood that, and they didn't expect things to happen overnight. And as technology got better and things improved, and we look at a lot of the folks, and I'll say I'm 60. Let's just say 30 and under, or 33 and under. They think about Facebook and Google and this and that and the other, and think, oh, I can become a billionaire overnight. If you study Facebook, it was about 14 years and hundreds of millions of dollars spent and hundreds of people working on that before it became successful. People think it was an overnight success. No, it was a decade. Amazon, 20 years, I think, or something like that, before they actually started making any money. People, oh, Jeff Bezos started this out of his garage. Apple. So I think we have totally or extremely unrealistic expectations for how fast things happen. Yeah, and I think the younger folks today are used to seeing things like new technology. This happens, that happens. This person, overnight success. I kid with people. I was an overnight success. It took 17 years for me to become an overnight success. But I think it's part of our society now that we expect that if I put in the effort today, everything's in download speed. If something takes 5 seconds to load in my computer, I'm upset. It's too long. If I order something and it isn't at my house tomorrow, I'm upset. This is too long. That doesn't work. That might work with ordering something from Amazon. It does not work in your life.
Yeah.
And if you were to really do the research, very, 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 very few people are successful quickly.
Yeah.
I'm an outlier to become a CEO at 26. Just shouldn't have happened. Not total luck, but an awful lot of luck there. Most people, it takes 40 years in their career before they become a CEO. So I think the wisdom there is you really have to understand, take a hard look at it and understand the things that I want to achieve in my life. Let me look at the other people who have achieved it and see how long did it actually take them. So I'll give you another example. When I became a consultant, a speaker, I decided I'd look around the world and find out who was the #1 business consultant in the world at that time. This is 25 years ago. And it was a guy named Tom Peters.
Tom Peters.
And he was on the cover of Time magazine as the Uber guru. So what I did is I sat down and created a checklist of everything that Tom Peters did to become Tom Peters. What did he learn? Did he write books? Who did he try? Everything I could learn about him. I flew around the country to watch him give speeches. I read all of his books. I ended up on a plane with him flying to Shanghai probably 15 years ago. I was about 10 years into this. And we sat next to each other, told him I was a huge fan. And while we were flying, he said, so what do you do for a living? And I said, something kind of like you. And he goes, what's your goal? And I go, to replace you. And he went, what? I go, I want to be #1 in the world at this. And he laughed at me. He's like, okay, good luck. About 7 years ago or 8 years ago, there's a thing called the Thinkers 50, which is the top 50 business experts in the world. It's the highest award you can get in my industry. It's like the Academy Awards. That year, I was shortlisted as #8 in the world in my category.
Wow.
I flew to London to be at the awards ceremony. Who is sitting next to me at the table?
Tom Peters.
Tom Peters.
Wow.
And I looked at him and said, I'm not #1, but I'm #8, and I'm on your tail. And he laughed and said, he goes, you're the only one that ever followed through. He goes, I've never had anyone say I'm going to catch you and then actually catch me. The reason was I had a checklist, and I got up every day and said, if I just check this stuff off, I will get there. It's going to take me 17 years.
Wow.
But I'm also in the top 10 in the world at what I do, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fact that I said, I know it's going to take 15, 18, 20 years.
So that overnight, 17 years, 18 years. Amazing how great you are, how persevere you are. Because in 17 years, there's a lot of up, there's a lot of downs movement also. So I believe that the up and the downs also contribute to your experience and the wisdom also coming from there. So on the down time, what did you do, or who did you talk to help you to gain the energy, gain the the strength, put it that way, to continue the
Yeah,
path.
yeah, the resilience.
Mm.
Couple of things. And number one, there was a couple major events in my life that taught me resilience. The first was failing out of university and realizing that no one would fix it but me.
Mm.
And I look back now, and had I not failed out the first time, I never would be where I am today. My life would have taken, if I wasn't forced to try to get control of my life and try to create a vision for my life and my values and all that work I did when I was 18, 19, had I not failed out of college, I wouldn't have done any of that work. So I look back now and say, what at the time felt like the biggest failure of my entire life is actually one of the best things that ever happened in my life, and totally changed it in a positive way. So now when I'm faced with failure, I ask myself, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this.
Mm.
And this could turn out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. So I have a more optimistic view of failure. Another thing is, in 1992, we had a massive hurricane, I guess you guys would call it a typhoon, go through where I lived in Florida, and I lost everything I owned in the world. Everything gone. I evacuated in my car, and I had to live in my car for a couple of months. And I learned, it was one of the, at the time, living in my car, I lost my house, I lost everything. I had insurance, but I put my head down and I made it through that. And I realized now two lessons I took from that. One, I can make it through really, really tough times. If I have to, I can live in my car. I can walk through this, I can handle losing everything. So I know I can be tough, and I know I can be resilient. Then the other thing I learned from that is it's just stuff.
Mm.
And I think I was about 30 when that happened to me, maybe a little younger. So I learned early in life that all those things, houseboats, cars, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. It's nice. I like stuff. I like nice stuff. But it's just stuff. If my house burned to the ground today, as long as my wife and our 3 dogs were fine, it would not faze me. I'd like, okay, let's get at a hotel. Everything's fine. So part of what you're asking is, I've had some things that help me understand failure might actually lead to massive success. You're tough, John. You're resilient. You can get through almost anything. And at the end of the day, it's all just stuff.
Mm.
And those have helped me at downtimes. Then the other part of it was that vision of the life I wanted to have. That no matter how bad things were, I thought, this is where I want to go. If I just pick myself up and make it through this, I know I can do it. I can get back on that path.
Mm.
I can get back headed towards where I want to be. And then one or two more quick things. I study Stoicism a lot.
Oh.
And Stoicism has 2 fundamental ideas that have been really impactful in my life. Number one is understanding that it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you choose to respond to it. And you always have a choice. The worst bad things can happen, and you can choose to look at the lessons and the good things. And then the other thing is understanding in your life what you can control and taking massive control of that, and understanding all the things you can't control, and as much as possible, letting go of all that. And I think a big part of wisdom for me is those 2 ideas. And at a personal level, there are only 2 things you control. Only 2 things. Your thoughts and your behaviors. That's it.
Mm.
If you go into business and other stuff, but at a fundamental level, as a human individual, those are the only 2 things you can control. Everything else, especially other people, is completely out of your control. And if you can learn to just let go of that, not worry about it, not stress, not get anxious, that's, to me, that's a big part of wisdom right there.
Beautiful, beautiful. You say when everything else just stuff, right? Car just stuff, house just stuff. A pen I'm holding in my hand right now, it's just also just stuff itself, right? And it helps you to see things lighter, to look at what is more important in life for you to concentrate rather than concentrating to something else that's not that much important. The question is,
Yeah, from Buddhism, that would be attachment.
uh,
Letting go of attachment. I have no attachment to my stuff. It's nice, but it's just stuff. If it all went away tomorrow, as long as I'm healthy and my wife's fine and the people I love are okay, I can always get more stuff.
but a lot of people will not be able to let go of that attachments. All right. So because it's attached to them, to their life, to their feeling, to how they think, everything, right? So tell me one or two ways to let go of that attachment and then so free our soul for something more important.
So, a couple of things, and that's why I said this is especially meaningful today. A young lady that works for me in the last couple of weeks, one of her friends and her twin sister were in a fire. Their electric bike caught on fire in their apartment. One of the girls died,
Oh,
and the other one is just now out of the hospital. And I told the
sorry.
young lady that works for me, and she's doing well, and she has moved through some of the grief. And I said, watch her, listen to her, learn from her. She's gone through incredible grief. There's an amazing lesson to learn there. Also, two of her friends' fathers died. She's 28, so this is young, and her father died while she was young. And she's at a funeral right now as you and I are speaking.
Oh,
She's at one of the funerals, and I said, listen carefully. Listen to what people say. They're not going to talk about his car or his house or his boat. They're going to talk about what a kind and beautiful person he was, and how generous he was, and how much he loved his family. So I think being able to again, that eulogy exercise, think long term about what do you really want your life to stand for, helps you understand how to act and behave today, and how to be patient in the face of even the most challenging things.
thank you. I'm sorry to hear the story of she. So please send our adolescent to her, please. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to. It's hard for me to continue when I hear this one. I want to have this last question for you. Is about the generations because uh, wisdom accumulated through time, it will become so much valuable for a lot of people to listen to learn, to reflect, to think, to adapt into their lives, and it can help them to get to wisdom earlier, get through challenging times a lot better and more equipped to face with anything that happen in their lives, right? And for now, we have a really big gap in generations, and young generation look at, different generations and say, oh, I have all of the technology, I have every data, okay? So I have every knowledge in life in here. And that disregards the wisdom from different generations, or also create a retaliation from different generations to look at the youngster and say, okay, if you don't care about our wisdom, we're not gonna teach you and things like that. So we want to bridge that gap to help them to understanding. There's so many things that we can learn from one another. What can we do, John?
So I'm smiling because I was reading Socrates recently from back at thousands of years ago, and he was complaining about the younger generation. Man, they don't work, they have a bad work ethic, they're lazy, they don't learn, and so this has only been a problem for 5,000 years.
uh,
Uh, Here's something that changed the way I looked at things.
mm,
When I was about 30, 33, I really thought I understood everything. I thought I'm smart, I'm wise, I'm brilliant. Then one day I woke up and realized I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just making it up the best I can every day. And I also learned, which was a big, big lesson, is I'm not right. There's
oh,
lots of ways to do things. There are, unless you talk about math or engineering or something, but the vast majority of things in life, you just have an opinion. I mean, I've got a well-researched and thoughtful opinion based on years of experience, but doesn't mean I'm right. So I think when you drop trying to prove that you're right or your idea is better or you're smarter or wiser or whatever it is, and you realize you have something to learn from everyone, and there's a very good chance that what you think you know is not the truth or is not the way things work. When you can let go of trying to be right at any age, you open yourself up to wisdom from other people, and it helps you create wisdom. And one of the biggest things in wisdom is knowing that there usually isn't one right answer. I mean, one of the things we all struggle with in our whole lives is all through schooling, we're taught to find the one right answer. You want to get an A on the test, you have to find the one right answer. As soon as you graduate from school, you realize there is no one right answer. There are multiple right answers. There are lots of ways to accomplish things. So when I gave that up and said, I don't have to be right, I don't have to prove anything, I can learn from anybody. I could very well be mistaken, and this is a great opportunity to learn from someone that knows better than me. All of a sudden, you open yourself up to wisdom and understanding that you don't have to tell anybody else what to do either.
Wow. Well, John, this is one of the best conversations I ever had. In the past 4 years doing podcasts, and every time I had a conversation with you, I got out a different person, because I know that I will talk to my wife and my children next, and we're gonna have the whole evening talking about it until tomorrow morning. Because not gonna sleep, and we continue talking about the idea you share. So thanks a lot for bring your experience, your wisdom, your lessons, and your willingness to share that to other people to help us get better as human beings. Thanks a lot for doing that, John.
It's my honor. It's my joy and my pleasure, my honor.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you one day. And in Vietnam, if you have opportunity to do the speaking engagement, and who knows when it's gonna come, right? So look forward to doing that. Or if I travel to the US to visit my family, then I hope to be able to go to Florida and having a beer time or coffee time with you and your wife. Okay.
That would be wonderful.
All right, my friend. Have a wonderful day, and thanks a lot for spending your time with us.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Take care and give my best to your whole family, please.
Thank you very much. Same to your family, please.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.